Saying that the 7th season of Game of Thrones was one hell of a season feels like a massive understatement. Delivering on so many of the fans' wishes, it has united viewers but also divided them at many points. But no matter what you thought of this season, you have to admit that there were some truly legendary moments that not only set a new bar for the show, but for television and films as well. So without further ado, let's begin. Starting off this list is the moment that started off the season, in which Arya, who is wearing the mask of Walter Frey, performs what can only be described as a mini red wedding on all of the Freys. The acting by David Bradley and Maisie Williams is on point, and aside from being insanely satisfying, the scene does a great job of showing us just how much of a fast-paced and action-packed season we were going to get. At number 14 is the death of Olenna Tyrell by the hands of Jaime Lannister. The Queen of Thorns was always a personal favourite of mine and is definitely up there with characters like Bronn and the Hound in terms of having the most savage one-liners.
That was Joffrey's sword, wasn't it? Not that he ever used it. What did he call it?
Widow's Wail.
He really was a cunt, wasn't he?
Diana Rigg gives a brilliant performance as she reveals that she was the one who orchestrated Joffrey's death and goes out like an absolute boss. Next up is Dany agreeing to help Jon fight against the army of the dead after witnessing the true evil and power of the Night King and his army. This is one of the more subtly important moments of the season because it's the first time we get to see both Dany and Jon in a truly vulnerable position, both suffering a big loss but ultimately coming together to fight the biggest and most important enemy of all. Number 12 is the first time we get to see Jon essentially embrace his Targaryen heritage without knowing it, as he has his first interaction with a dragon. Unlike the Bran reveal in the finale that straight up tells us who he is, this scene gives us a visual idea of Jon's abilities and does a good job of foreshadowing his Targaryen heritage. Number 11 is one of the most fun and satisfying moments in this season, in which Arya has a nice duel with Brienne. It's basically the biggest female character versus the smallest female character, and everything about this fight was perfectly executed. The directing, the editing, the actual fighting from both actors, and I love that Arya gives Littlefinger that death stare at the end, which obviously foreshadows his death. At number 10 is the turning of Viserion into an ice dragon, or whatever you want to call it. This scene was directed with so much tension and so much suspense, and I know that this scene may have gone too far for many people in terms of logic, but it was such a pivotal moment as it showed us just how powerful the Night King is and gave the undead army more of a fighting chance, because let's be honest, no amount of ice javelins is going to be able to take 3 dragons and all the armies of Westeros combined. Number 9 marks the most satisfying death since Ramsay. I am of course talking about the snaky, manipulative dickhead that is Littlefinger. One of the most complex and well-written characters on the show, played amazingly by Aidan Gillen, met his end at the hands of Arya Stark. I think most of us can agree that the whole Winterfell storyline has been one of the weakest aspects of this season. Nothing about it felt right until this death, which I think is just elegant in its simplicity. In 8th place is the first meeting between Ice and Fire, Jon and Daenerys, one of the most important and most anticipated moments in the entire series. The meeting between the two main characters of the show was handled so well, and the tension which was crafted so well through the dialogue, directing and acting felt so palpable. But for me, the star of that scene was actually Davos, whose comedic moments really eased the tension between these two superpowers. It was just a very satisfying scene that really got everything right. Number 7 is the Pip Meeting in the finale. Almost every single character was present at what is far and away the biggest dialogue-driven scene in the show. It felt like an action set piece as big as Battle of the Bastards or the Loot Train attack, but words were used instead of spears and dragonfire. This scene marked the reunion of so many characters in the first meeting of many others. It was directed to perfection by Jeremy Bedeswa, and every actor brought their A game to one of the most intense but also enjoyable scenes in the show's history. In 6th place is Bran's flashback montage in the finale that confirmed to all viewers that Jon, or Aegon, is in fact a legitimate Targaryen. Intercutting that scene with Jon and Daenerys was perfect, as it showed the contrast between the person with the most claim to the throne but has never wanted power, with the person whose sole purpose in life is to sit on the Iron Throne. It was perfect closure to all the characters involved, while setting up just enough intrigue for us to be excited for the next season. In 5th place is the destruction of the wall by the Night King and his new dragon. I think we all predicted this, but just like the turning of Viserion, it was simply incredible to see on screen with our own eyes, and I do feel that it is the perfect way to end the season. My number 4 pick on this list are 2 moments, so I guess it is kind of cheating, but I feel that these are 2 equally good moments, and those are Cersei's conversations with Tyrion and her conversation with Jaime, which leads to him leaving her. For me personally, these scenes showcase the best acting all season. Lena Headey gives a masterfully complex performance in both scenes, and Peter Dinklage gives us, in my opinion, his best performance since the trial scene in season 4. My favourite moment from these 2 scenes is the look of heartbreak on Jaime's face when Cersei tells the Mountain to kill him. Obviously she doesn't go through with it, but that was really the moment when Jaime snapped and he just couldn't take any more and he leaves. And out of all the characters, I am by far most excited to see the direction they take Jaime next season. Number 3 showcases what is, beyond the shadow of a doubt, the most impressive filmmaking in this season: the Loot Train attack. One of the most well-crafted and executed battle scenes of all time was directed to perfection by Matt Shakman. It even had its own long take sequence that rivaled the one in Miguel Sapochnik's Battle of the Bastards. This scene is Game of Thrones at its best, showing us the perspective and making us sympathetic to both sides, and making the audience feel so conflicted. It was just so masterfully handled. It was perfect. Number 2 isn't really a moment, but a collection of many. Too many to count, basically. The reunions. Whether it's Brienne and the Hound, Tyrion and his siblings, Gendry's return, the Stark children, Season 7 was a season of reunions, and I think I speak for all of us when I say the viewers appreciated every single one of them. Number 1 might get me a bit of hate, but for me it is the most epic and most memorable moment in probably the most epic and memorable season, and that is Daenerys rescuing the team beyond the wall. Say what you will about the leaps and logic, whether it's Gendry's super speed or the super speed of the dragons and the ravens, but this scene took Game of Thrones to a new level of epicness, and even though it may not be as well directed as many of the other scenes in this season, it was the one that got me cheering the most. It gave us possibly the biggest death in this season, and I mean Viserion, because up to this point the dragon seemed to be almost invincible, and it was great to see Dany at her low point. I think that this was a legendary moment and my personal favourite from this season. On the whole, I would say Game of Thrones Season 7 is probably my favourite season of Game of Thrones. It had some of the most satisfying moments, it had some of the most insane moments. Of course there are certain storylines that didn't work, but that is to be expected from a show that is this big with this many characters. And those are my personal 15 favourite moments of this season. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching.